This was a big event. At that time in 1964, the civil rights movement was the biggest news in the country.
Freedom, freedom, freedom.
And here was the featured player in the civil rights movement on our campus. So it was a big deal.
I mean, Martin Luther King was in a different league. You know, he was a major political, cultural, intellectual figure.
Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Thank you, Mr. Randolph.
He was in Maine because he wanted to make sure we knew it was our responsibility to find out what was going on in Tennessee and Georgia and Alabama.
We never expected the crowd that gathered for this particular event. I'm sure you probably have heard about it. It had to get moved to another venue because the crowds were so large.
So there was a real sense of anticipation. Certainly at the First Parish Church, it was packed. There was a sense of excitement to have him there and have him speaking, and certainly the I Have a Dream speech, the march, was very much on people's minds.
We wanted to hear him. We wanted to hear what he was saying and what he was up to, and I think there was a sense of reverence and a sense of real respect for what he was trying to do. He was speaking calmly and with a lot of determination, knowing that that he needed all the support he could get and that he was on the side of the right.
When the event ended, our group invited him to the student union right across the way here at that time for a cup of coffee. He was waiting for a ride. I believe he had a long overcoat on. And it was, I don't know if it was cold, but he was quite a figure in that. The student union had two couches, just as we have here, facing each other. And I'm not even sure how I did it, but the next thing I know, I had Dr. King over here, and I was here.
So I went in and I found a chair and I pulled it up and sat there it's hard to remember how long it was. It seemed like it was a whole evening, but it was an hour or more for sure, of a real conversation. And to me, that was the stunning part of that. He wasn't treating us as anything other than human beings he was having a conversation with.
I'd like to know when nonviolent action does in fact become violent and destructive.
I believe firmly that the solution lies in total nonviolence. I am committed to this philosophy. I think it has strength. I think it has the kind of power, as I'm trying to say in my talk tonight, that can transform society. And I think the more we commit ourselves to it, and the more we see its meaning, the more we can do through it.
At the end, I said, this is wonderful what you talked about. I'm really glad I came. But what's it got to do with me? A white kid at an all-white school in an all-white state. And he looked at me and he said, if your conscience stops at the border of Maine, you're less of a person than you should be, and you're as responsible for what happens in Birmingham as you are in Brunswick.
We all know and remember what effect that visit had upon all of us, because we talk about it, as I said, quite often. I've talked to many people about it. It was a wonderful day. He was a fabulous guy.
And then afterwards, King wrote, "This is just a note to express my appreciation to you for the many courtesies extended to me on my recent visit to Bowdoin College. You made my visit very meaningful and enjoyable. I will always remember the warm reception there. I hope that my message in some little way served to shed light on the difficult problem of racial injustice which still pervades our nation. I can think of few things that I enjoy more than discussing some of the vital issues of our day with college students. I hope that it will be possible for me to visit Bowdoin sometime in the future."
King today is someone who's central to the American experience, and it is almost impossible to live here without at least being aware of him and the effect that he had on moving the country, and perhaps even setting a standard that a person, has to do more than just think about things, but the importance is to be engaged in the world around you and to take actions that are going to create a more just society.
I think, as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I just think that that's something that every student recognizes, that this might not be the 1960s, it might not be the chaos and discrimination at the time, but there's still so much more to be done. There's so many more steps to be taken, so much more progress to be found.
Activism is really student-driven here at Bowdoin. A lot of the administration is happy to help, but it really starts at the students, where we have to say hey, this is a problem, we need to change this.
It's easy to take the back seat and be oh, I don't need to be more involved. But at the same time, I think it's really important for everyone to kind of step up.
Just because I'm a minority on this campus doesn't mean that the conversation comes just for me. It means that the conversation is a two-sided conversation about learning what it means to live in a privileged environment, also what it means to live in an underprivileged environment, and just learning how to have several conversations about things in which people disagree, but also teaching how to be peaceful and kind and generous with people, even when other people aren't understanding and aren't as generous and kind.
He spoke about how anyone living inside the United States should never be an outsider. He spoke about our common interests, our common goals, and I think we have recently been a bit divided. So I think we could invoke some of that spirit and understand that we should reignite the dream again.